Hey everybody, just before we get into this episode, I'm all about supporting small businesses, and this is not a paid advertising whatsoever. I met Sook. He came over to my house. I had a issue with some plumbing, and he helped me out. And Paradox Mechanical, he's a great guy, and very professional and great pricing. So if you are in the Surrey, Vancouver, Coquitlam, I think area, somewhere like Delta, give him a shout, and he'll hook you up definitely. And tell him you heard it from Raw Minds. Anyway, so I just wanted to give him a shout out. So back to our episode. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Now it's time to be dangerous. Now it's time to get risky. Now it's time to truly find out what you're made of and what you could achieve. Now it's time to truly find out how many lives you can impact. Now it's time to find out what you were destined to become.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Raw Minds. I'm your host Eric, and if you're here right now, you are not weak, you are human. Today's episode is heavy, and it makes everything matter of what we're doing. My guest is Marcia Earhart. Marcia is not just speaking theory, she is speaking from lived pain. She lost 2 adult sons in 11 years, one to murder. She lost her mother. She has walked alongside a child battling mental health, and instead of shutting down, she showed up. She is a grief, trauma, brain, and mental health first responder coach. She is a mentor. She is a HeartSync minister. She is also a co-founder of the nonprofit that meets people in their darkest moments. Her book, Gripping Grace in the Garden of Grief, A Place of the Heart, is not a feel-good read. It's an honest, it's painful, it's real. This conversation is about loss. Isn't about loss. It's about faith under pressure. It's about breathing again when life feels impossible. If you're grieving, if you feel broken, and if you feel alone, this one's for you. And before we dive in, do me a favor, like the episode, share it with someone who needs it, comment if this hits home, follow Raw Minds, for this message keeps on reaching the people that need to hear it most. So let's get into it, and thank you for joining, Marcia.
Hey, it's good to see you, Eric. Thank you for having me on.
Very good to see you. Before I start, I like to get all our guests to plug all their stuff where people can find you. So if you can, please plug all your stuff.
You can find me on www.thesterlingrosesanctuary.us. You can find me on Instagram under the Sterling Rose Sanctuary and on Facebook under the Sterling Rose Sanctuary. And you can get my book on Amazon, Gripping Grace in the Garden of Grief.
Awesome. And all that info will be in the bio below, so you can check that out and hit the links, and that'll take you right there. So can you please explain who you are and a little bit of a background and where you came from and what got you to where you are?
I would say that I am uniquely me. Nobody can be who I am. And I was really first a daughter, and I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm a great friend. I love people well. Grief has always been a part of my life, and I didn't have life without it. My first memory is at 3.5. So grief didn't define me, but it did redefine my life. I understood the brevity of this life, and I walked with great intention in the places, Eric, where life took me. And after the loss of my first son, the Lord told me to go back and count how many losses I had had by the time I was 18. And I'd had 17 very significant losses. So I realized that I was already at a young age being prepared for my calling. And I think that's so neat. When you look back and you really see that the course of life really was about preparing. And I was very blessed because I got to see my parents grieve well. And they really showed me how to grieve. Because someone had said, based on what you went through, you should have a lot of trauma. I never had a lot of trauma. I think it's because I understood the ability to release that pain, not let it become a part of me, and to embrace life. Because again, we're not promised the next breath. And because I saw that brevity, I really wanted to be engaged. I really wanted to put myself out there to love well, which I know grief can kind of put us one way or the other. And for me, it took me and kind of threw me out and said, hey, I want to love, I want to live. And, part of the mantra for the Sterling Rose Sanctuary is we help people breathe again and move again and live again. Why again? Because when we have trauma and we have grief, we aren't breathing. We're not really having oxygen into our organs the way it should be. And so we really want people to be able to have that breath again. We want people to move. Grief causes us to become very stationary. It can really be very isolating, and we stop living, we stop doing. And so we really help people with tools to put things in place so that they can start moving again. And if you're breathing and you're moving, then praise God, we hope that you're living again, because there's more for you. And I think my story resonates that we can have so much loss, but still have so much life.
And that's so beautiful. And I'm actually really excited to sit down and talk to you about this, because I myself have so much loss in my life too, from the age of 5. I think we spoke a little bit about this one in our pre-interview there. So from the age of 5 all the way up to about 18, I watched every single one of my family members pass away in my house, because my mom was a nurse and they didn't want to pass away in the hospital. So I grew up with it, right? I saw firsthand, pretty much all of them just take their last breath, right? And then, I didn't have a great childhood. I did for what my mom gave me, but I put myself in some very questionable circumstances, right? And it was dangerous. Let's just say it was very dangerous. And I hung out with the wrong group of crowds, and I lost friends from either drug overdose or murders and stuff like that because of the people I hung out with. And God, I would say in my mid-20s, I was into over 40 friends lost, and I was so tired of going to funerals, just tired of it. But people looked at me and like, how come this doesn't affect you? And it does affect me, but it affects me a different way because I'm okay with it. I've been through it. And I lost my best friend 6 years ago now. And then my fiance now, 2.5 years ago it lost, right? And it's been nonstop over and over, but I understand it. For me, my aspect is I understand grief. I understand that the world keeps on going, and if you don't move with it, you're going to get left behind with it. And you got to go through these feelings. And for me, I see where grief, you can't go over it. You can't run around it. You can't go away from it. You can run from it as long as you can, but it's going to catch up to you one day, one day. And you got to go through it. And I learned that at a young age, and it's nice to actually be able to have a conversation with someone that, because it's very rare that people get to go through all these tragic, at the end of the day, death can be beautiful too at the same time. My mom is on her way out. She's 82 years old. She's lived a beautiful life, and she's ready to go. She told me she's ready to go, and it's a beautiful thing. She lived that beautiful life. So it can be a beautiful side. It's sad tragedy at the same time, but it's a beautiful, because she left a legacy to go on, which is me and my sister, right? So I just want to say it's nice that, that someone that kind of understands, the aspect is being through a lot, and kind of sees grief a different way. So I'm actually really excited to have this conversation with you.
Well, I love that you see the legacy of your mother. And what that says is you can see beyond the moment of sorrow and sadness. And yes, it is going to be sorrowful. There will be sadness. Your mom will not physically be here anymore, but you're seeing beyond that she has a legacy to leave, that she's imparted that in you, that you take that forward with you.
Yes.
And I can see how grief has really redefined your own life, Erick, as you're sharing about the multitude of losses, because even though you had a really difficult time in your 20s and made some wrong decisions, you were allowed to have your life turned around so that you really could put those things in place and walk with a sense of beauty from all that broke up and around you.
And it gave me purpose in a sense, and this is why Raw Minds is here right now and alive, and why you're sitting on the other side of me is because my fiance passed away and I felt really alone, and I've had suicidal thoughts before. I actually attempted, and I woke up 2 days later in the hospital. And I didn't want other men to feel like that again, right? And so I created Raw Minds to show people that they are not alone, and I want to help people out there. And now this whole transition and everything, I think has built me to now I want to become a life coach and with grief, because I know it so well, right? So I'm actually working on my programs right now. So I just finished my 8-week program, and I'm gonna work on my 10 and 12. I'm gonna have 3 different programs there. So I'm working on that. So it's inspired me to help other people too. I will let you guys know when that's all available and when I'm ready, okay? But it's not ready yet. It takes a lot of work and a lot of, but yes.
Yeah, but you're being diligent to pursue that, to be able to use your experiences to reach back to someone else and be in their space, love them well, encourage them,
Hmm.
provide those tools that are necessary so that they too can embrace life.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, and it's like, and I like to share that, like, just because someone passed away doesn't mean that your life ends. You
That's
know,
right.
you're still you still going. And I take it on a little bit of a more in your face, blunt approach though, is like they're gone, right? You know what I mean? Like that person is gone, you know? And as much as you want that person to come back, they will never come back. They will live in your memories and everything like that. But it, like, at the end of the day, at some point you have to face that, you know? And
Well, I
that's
think that's important. I mean, you're talking about something that in the sanctuary, when someone comes to us, my first question, Eric, is have you given yourself permission to grieve?
Mhm.
And most of the time, the individual has not. And so that's the first door we need to crack open is give
Yeah.
yourself permission to grieve. And giving yourself permission to grieve, now have you acknowledged that you too died in that loss? That version of you
Mhm.
died because
Yes.
that's part of the grieving process. You're not going to be that person again because the other person's not there to interact and bring that person out. And so there's this process of that I too need to go on and grieve my own death, but
Mhm.
to realize that as I go in that cocoon, because I do believe we go in a cocoon after we've had these losses in our life, that new life will emerge and that we, just like that butterfly, we have to allow for the wings to be
Mhm.
pumped up, and we've got to be willing to do that to then take flight into the new version of myself. And that can be
So beautiful.
painful, and I get it, but it's doable and it is beautiful. It's a beautiful process that there is something that emerges from the ashes and that heap in our life,
Mhm.
that we are not broken people. We're broken open for new life to happen, for new things to begin. And so we really want to encourage people to be able to embrace that. And how do you embrace that? Is because you got to, one, be intentional. See, time's not going to heal our pain,
Mhm.
but intentionality does.
Can you tell me a little bit more about is it like a retreat that you guys do? Is it like a weekend retreat, or is it like, yeah, can you go into more a little bit of detail on that?
Yes, what we do is we work with individuals, couples, and families who have experienced some sense of trauma or are grieving or in the midst of grief. And we work with them over the phone, over bringing tools and modalities. I'm a HeartSync minister and a mediator. So I work with individuals to bring the healing in the places where there's anger, unforgiveness, all the negative emotions that we have that are poison to our minds and our body. Because what happens is if we cannot return to joy quickly, that poison seeps into every aspect of us and our body becomes sick. We have mental health problems because we're not able to handle, because we don't have the capacity, because we're not doing the things necessary for healing. We work with families in mediating, this is the way you may heal, but I heal differently. So how do we allow each other to heal in that space, yet not trigger each other? So
Mhm.
we work through with families, with children and spouses so that they have the most successful experience walking in the grief. Because there were things that were healing to me that were actually triggering to someone in my family. So we talked about that. How can I do this without triggering you? And you find ways. You have to be creative, but that's what we help people do. So we see our role is helping individuals understand the differences in how they grieve and how they can actually be strengthened in that grief journey instead of fracturing further apart. And for individuals, the same thing. We want you to have a healthy community. And quite often you're feeling very lonely in the process. So, how is it that we can help you establish healthy processing and get you in community? But you need to deal with your grief in and of yourself. There is a time and place, I believe, for group settings, but I do not believe it should happen in the initial onset if you have not dealt with your grief.
Mhm.
Because what happens is you bring your story, I bring my story, and we literally vomit all this information out of our stories. And that can actually cause trauma to other people to hear someone
Mhm.
else's story when they haven't healed. And I've heard people come and say to me, I was in this group, I heard this, and now I'm even more traumatized. And I'm like, okay, because we're not trying to open ourselves up for further trauma. The point is to have healing. So at the
Mhm.
Sterling Rose Sanctuary, we work uniquely, individually with each person that comes in. And we are in the midst of fundraising for a place so that people can leave their trigger trauma and come and stay 3 to 5 days, but not in a group setting. Again, this is individual, couple, or family, and they can receive different aspects of our modalities, and they can then return to their place where they've had a reset and they've had a sense of rejuvenation, and have been able to put in place some of the resources we've already been tapping into and really been equipping throughout the process.
I love that. I love that. And so is it like, okay, here's a better question. I already know the answer to this, but just for our audience and from your side, like in your work, have you noticed, like, is there a time frame for grief, how long it lasts, or like I know what to say, but I just would like for you to, from what you've noticed since you've worked with all these people.
And there's not, and we know that based on our own
Mhm.
journey, Eric. I think we
Mhm.
both can,
Yeah.
unequivocally say there's not. However, there should be healthy movement.
Mhm.
And I think we have what I call a spirit of grief versus grieving with hope. A spirit of grief comes in to consume, steal, kill, and destroy your life. And
Mhm.
there are people that come that have, well, they've had undealt with grief for years and it has robbed them of a sustaining life. And so they realize 10, 15 years down the road, I really need to do something differently now. And so the way I think grief heals is depending on how you walk in, the mindset that you have.
Yeah.
For me, I want to heal and I want to receive healing from the healers. I don't want to walk around impaired and with paralysis. And again, because Eric and I have experienced grief, I don't think I'm speaking for him, but there can be a sense of paralysis that prevents us from living life. And we have to be intentional to say, no, I'm not receiving that. I want to have
Mhm.
everything functioning and moving and working. So grief is a teacher for us. It does teach us about life. And I really believe that if we don't enter in the grief, then what happens is that we are really in a pubescent sense in our life. We haven't really grown up because we're all going to go out the same way.
Mhm.
None of us are going to
Mhm.
have some miraculous way we're exiting the world other than death. So we need to be comfortable with it. We need to have conversations like you and I are having right now. We need to equip people with tools so that they're not shocked and they're not going, I don't understand. I can't believe. The reality is
Mhm.
everybody's dying.
Mhm.
And from the time you're born, you've started into your death sentence. Now
Yeah.
that may seem grim, but the reality is it's the reality. We all have a day marked for us and
Mhm.
it's not going to change. So
It's so true.
how do we get there victoriously? We go in with intentionality and we receive the things. And as you and I talk, because I have a strong faith, I receive the things that God gives me, the things that He's showing me and revealing to me in His Word, and the sustenance of life. That I'm not going to leave or forsake you. I'm with you. I'm going to go before you. That He's already fought the battle. He's already won this, because it feels like we're in a battle when we're
Mhm.
in grief. And we are in
Definitely.
our mind. The battle's in the mind. And there is this fight internally going on. There's a lie that's being told and there's truth. And if I don't replace the lie with truth, then I get succumbed to that lie and I go into the pit. And the pit's the desiring to consume me. I don't want
I've
to be
been there.
consumed.
I've
Yes.
been there, and it's a dark place. It
Yes.
really is a dark place, and I mean, it takes a lot of power to even try to climb out of there sometimes, because it's not a nice place. It really isn't. I want to ask too. So, do you guys address too, obviously, the 5 stages of grief too?
Okay. I want to talk about that.
Yes. Yes.
That has been a misunderstanding that has been
Mm-hmm.
taught. Kubler-Ross was not talking about 5 stages of grief. That is the 5 stages of dying. And I don't know where it transitioned that there were 5 stages of grief, but there are not. Everyone's journey is completely different. I never felt anger in my grief. I didn't have denial. I
Me
didn't
either.
and we don't have, I mean, and this is what I have people come and say, well, I haven't experienced this. And I said, well, honey, you don't have to. they're waiting, like they're waiting for this experience of this emotion because this has been so misquoted and misunderstood. And unfortunately, too many people have brought it into their practices that, Kubler-Ross has said that no, there's not. So stop saying that, because what that says to emotion is, well, I can't move on because I haven't experienced A, B, C, and D. And so, no, everyone's going to deal with things very differently. And our emotions are going to be based on the experience that we've had, the relationship that we had with the individual. And then we need to walk into that space. So it's very, and I actually found out in the midst of my own loss that there weren't these 5 things that we all needed to experience. I didn't know myself. I had this, and then I became I transitioned from, counseling coaching to coaching and went back to school for that. And I started learning this, and I'm like, oh my word, we have really not done justice in this place for people, because and now I hear it quite often. People have that expectation. So I want everyone to know you're not going to experience 5 different stages, because there are no stages.
Old rules or whatever you want to call it, I guess, right? Yeah. Or old wives' tale, I guess you could say, in the sense,
I just think it's a methodology that people have adopted to and said, oh, everybody experiences 5. No, they don't. And I don't like the word everyone. I always will. I never. Those are very dangerous words in grief. I want the grieving community to know that. Don't say I'll never, ever be healed.
Yeah.
I won't ever get over this loss. Don't, because what you're doing is speaking negativity, and your body lines up with that. So if you're telling your body you're not, then guess what? You're not. But if I say, this is really difficult, but I'm walking in it and I am in the process of healing. You may not be healed yet, but you're walking in the process of healing. It's just like you get a cold. Does the cold get to define you? No. You've got this cold, but you're in the process after you get the cold of healing, right? So that's what you say.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of healing. And then you receive that.
Or I am going to get through this,
yes.
like
yes.
good, like
life.
stuff,
You're speaking life. Yes.
I learned this because I watched and read the book, The Secret. And it's about putting those good intentions out of there. But you got to also be careful with them too, because your subconscious mind is very dangerous, because it can't tell which is which. Right? And you just got to be careful of what words you say. You got to use the right wording too, because what you put out is come back. I think I talked about this many times on my podcast. Jim Carrey, before he was an actor, he wrote $1 million a check to himself and put it on his fridge. And I think after a couple of years or a year or so, he got that check. He got the $1 million, and because he walked by it, he said it to himself every day, and he put that out in there, right? So it's about putting good stuff out into the world, and you'll receive that back, I believe.
And the Lord talks about it's transformation of the mind, that we're being transformed and renewed daily. And so we can either live from the tree of life, which is what we speak, what we do, or we live from the tree of death. And the tree of death is you're not living. It's what you speak, it's what you do, and you're just ruminating in that death. And so therefore you've stopped living.
Yeah. And it's very sad too. And that's in that point too, then you're just floating around, you're just floating, like when you're not really living, you know what I mean? And in the sense you're just existing, I guess you could say. And it's very sad to say that, it's very sad.
Yes, it is.
I want to ask you too, for me in my journey with grief, I found it was really hard for me too, because I was grieving not only the loss of my fiance at the time, but also all the plans I made, all the future that I had, all the vacations. I felt that, and a lot of people don't realize that, like, you're not just grieving the person, but you're grieving everything that came with that person, all the memories, all, like, even from your back, you're grieving those memories. You're grieving the ones that you haven't even made yet, but you've made in your head.
Yes.
Like, to me, do you guys address that as well? And do you feel that too?
Absolutely. The one loss actually brings a multitude of losses. It's kind of like a domino.
Definitely.
And that's why we have to start with acknowledging this is loss, this is grief, and I need to enter, and I need to start here, because there are other things. So for us, we didn't just lose our son. We lost who we were. We lost our family as it was. We lost what the future of our family would look like. We lost his future with us. We lost his friends, the majority of his friends. We lost friends also in the journey. We lost a sense of a community of what we knew with him. And that was in other aspects than the things I just mentioned. My husband and I lost who we were as with that son present. We would never be that husband and wife interacting in that same way with his absence. And someone may go, I don't even understand. How could you have lost? Because our son brought a different side out of our relationship.
Definitely. It's that puzzle piece that's missing, you know?
And so I want people to understand that's what I'm talking about. I wasn't the same mother to my kids that I was before he passed. That layer was lost. I needed to grieve it. And so, but we have to be willing to receive what those losses are and not just go, I'm not doing this. It's too painful. I'll be fine. And I can tell you, and you addressed it earlier, grief will catch up with you. And not only that, what I see is most of the time when someone comes to me, it's because it's layered grief. It's complex, complicated grief because they never stop to allow themselves to inner healing. And now there is this complexity. It's like a ball. Have you ever put rubber bands together? That's exactly what it is. It's like all of a sudden, all these layers are in there and you go in and you start that healing process. And typically it's the outer band first. And we start bringing healing to the outer band until we go all the way down because it has caused the person to just implode. They can't handle anymore. Capacity was already done, but now there's an implosion and they're just without any hope quite often, and they're desperate.
I've seen that firsthand too, because that's how my fiance's mom act. I mean, firsthand, right? Losing a child. Like, I lost my fiance. I couldn't imagine losing my daughter, and like my all condolence, right? And that's what it was. It was like she couldn't do anything on her own anymore, because she just lost all hope of everything, and it was really hard to see and to watch, and trying to bring her back and show her that there's hope. She had to have family members stay with her because they were watching her for like suicide watch pretty much, right? Because she lost her husband, I think 3 years ago. He went for surgery. It was supposed to be an easy surgery and he didn't make it. So then she just lost her only child, and then it was her. And actually her dog just passed away not long ago too. So I wonder how she's doing. But I mean, yeah, so I could understand the lost hope. It's really hard. And like I said, I see it firsthand, and it's bad, but it really is. It's hard when people get like that.
Well, I think we lose hope when we lose sight that there is still life. And that is exactly, to me, and where the enemy wants us is to lose hope, to no longer think that there can be beauty, that there can be joy, that we can laugh again, that there's this abundance that is for us again.
And it's, I guess, finding that why again, I guess, you know what I mean, is really, finding the why. But at the same time, and I had a guest come on and he blew my mind with that, is, everybody's trying to, what's your why? But no one talks about how, and it kind of blew my mind. Like, it's so right. And it's stuff like what you're doing right now is like, that's how you get through this stuff, talking, speaking to people, not just sitting in your feelings is good when you're expressing it to someone, or sometimes it's a good cry, but not sitting in your feelings every day, and just playing this victim mentality. I hate to say it, but like, I'm not about that. Like, yeah, okay, someone passed away. I understand. But it's not you to play that victim, poor me, this person, right? And I had to deal with this with the family, what I went through. And sorry, I kind of lost train of thought there. I was on left and right. But yeah, I mean, I lost totally train of thought. Whatever is going.
Well, I mean, I think that and I want to address the victim mentality. We have to be careful because there is a victim mentality. And then there's also the fact that right now I am a victim.
No, don't get me wrong. Like, victim.
No, but I want to make it clear for your audience because someone grieving may think, oh my gosh, grief is a victim. No, what Erick is talking about is that when that lingers and you are finding comfort in your grief story, that you're not seeing the purpose, you're not intentionally moving through. Because, and I can speak from the seat I'm in, there are people that they have become comfortable being the victim because of the attention that it has got. And I don't mean that ugly, but it has drawn them in a different place. But they come saying, I don't want to be this person anymore. This isn't how I want to live the rest of my life. So again, with intentionality, they've come to be set free of that mindset. They've realized I'm not living as a victor, but somewhere I've been taken and hijacked as the victim.
And exactly, like, make it clear, like, not saying that, you are a victim of grief. Don't get me wrong and stuff like that. I just want to make that clear. But it's like exactly you said, where
Well, I don't even like
you're
saying a victim of grief. I want to say that you're the student.
student. Yeah,
I don't
better.
even want
I
to
like
say
that.
victim because again, we're
Yeah.
speaking a label that loves the
Yeah.
negativity of that. So you're
That's
a
true.
student of grief.
Yeah.
And right now you feel like you're the victim because there's been the sustaining loss, and that's understandable. And whether it's your health, your finances, a friend, the dreams that you've had, a person in your life, grief and loss, there's a magnitude of those things and what really entails grief and loss. We could sit here all day because the list is so long.
Definitely. I do want to talk about your nonprofit. I'd love to know more about your nonprofit, and if you can let some of my viewers know.
Yeah. Our nonprofit, we work all over the U.S. and now in 7 countries. And
Nice.
so we work on the phone, and you can go on our website, set up an appointment, or if you're someone that this resonates and you've had a sustaining loss and you would like to pour in financially, we are going to be getting a place, Eric. That is
Yes.
on the capital campaign is in the throes, and
Hell
we
yeah.
are wanting to have a place where those people can come after we've done the hard work, that they can have those 3 to 5 days. And we are in Florida. And why are we in Florida? Because we want to see life when we're experiencing death, things that are green, not things that are dead. So there's, God brought us very intentionally here for the reason that there's life here. Things are green year round, and pretty much except today and a few days, it's warm. And so we want people to be able to come to an environment that is speaking life over them. The Sterling Rose Sanctuary is for anyone that has encountered grief. And we want to be able to sit with and be that companion walking you through. We have resources online. They can go online and look at resources. They can purchase the book to help them. And that book is really for anyone who has had losses that need someone to identify with the raw emotions, which I love raw minds because we're talking raw emotions in grief. And the mind is raw in grief. And so I write from a very raw perspective. And that was what I was experiencing in that time of grief. But in the rawness, there's also hope all built into my writing because I felt the hope in and over me, even in the midst of such despair. So we want people to know there is a place for them that receives them, that's here to encourage them and be the shoulder for them.
I love that. And your smile too just shows like how genuine. You just got this genuine smile that just captivates to bring people in. I swear to God. So I just want to say, if you're struggling, reach out and just get the book or check them out, man. What do you got to lose at the end of the day? What do you got to lose, right?
Yes.
And I want to talk about your book here. I want to go a little bit in your book, please, if we can. If you can just kind of give a rundown about your book.
The book, there's a story behind this. So, and it's in the book. It's briefly in the book. And for our first son, we actually knew that he would die in a car accident. It was prophesied to us by the Lord, and it was verified in 2008. So my son knew that. We knew that. And when I returned from the conference that was verified, I spent 6 months, 9, but 6 months suppressed into the Lord, grieving that it was coming. And the Lord said, I want to prepare you. And so he sowed into me scriptures that really were my weapons of warfare when my son passed. And that's in the book. I write the scriptures that were my foundation. And when I was not in a place, I was hearing those lies the Spirit would speak up very quickly with the truth that had already been sown into me, Eric, and it would dismiss that lie. And so that's the beginning of the book. And it kind of tells the story of our family. And then that's kind of the beginning. And then it just goes into the journey from the time that the police showed up at our house. And each time that was a very pivotal marker for us of pain showing up in my life where I needed to write about it. I needed to express it. Now, I did ask the Lord when Sterling passed, our family that morning kneeled and we went in prayer. And we asked the Lord to please allow us to see the beauty that surrounded us and to not give us a spirit of grief, but to let us grieve with the hope that He has for us. And His beauty showed up every day. I love to take photographs, and I would take my camera wherever I went. And I am not kidding you. He would just show up the most beautiful things. And I would take these pictures, and they really were answers to my outcry of my heart. So they're in the book with the very writing of that particular time.
Wow.
And so that is in the book. The loss of my mother is in the book, losing the relationship with her, the loss of no longer having, I mean, my mom had dementia, but now she was physically gone. We still had this incredible spiritual connection. She knew me up until she passed. And that's there. And the journey of my son's mental health, the battle that came after losing his brother, because my children, one was 16, one was 12, and everyone else was older. They were out of the house. They were young adults. Their childhood ended in that moment. That was another loss. They never could return to being a child. And I understood that based on my own life. And when I say never, I'm not saying never, but this was a moment where there wasn't that place they could go back as if it never happened. Their friends didn't, a lot of the people around them really didn't understand. They'd not experienced loss. So that was a very lonely season for them, because here's this huge loss. And really the only people that can identify are those that have had loss. And us. And there just weren't a lot of young people that had that loss. And, we did try to find places where we could surround them with other people that had experienced some of those losses. But my son had this it was so overwhelming. And so that's in the book, the process of that, what God birthed out of that. He's a beat maker, singer, songwriter. He's on Apple and Spotify. God gave him this gift of music to express his pain, to express all that was bound up in him, and to really speak life back into him. And so thankful, so thankful. And then my second son, the murder of him, his girlfriend, and from the ex-boyfriend, it's in the book, because we had to start all over again in 2019 on the journey of we all died again. That aspect of what life looked like. And then the treasures that come from the dark. There's a whole segment of the treasures. And I'm not talking about I'm talking about the treasures all of us get to have. These aren't just my treasures. This is for anyone who's in the dark, who's walked through the dark. You should be able to come out with treasures. And if you haven't, then you missed it. You need to go back and get them, because they're there waiting for you. And just the encouragement that grief doesn't get to define us. It should never have the last word. It was never meant to have the last word.
So true. So true. I do want to say, if you could send me your son's links for Spotify, I would love to put it down in my bio too, and
Okay.
push that out there. And I will definitely follow him too. I just wanted to say that too.
Yeah,
So
appreciate that. Yes.
definitely we'll do that.
Yeah.
You want to tell me a little bit of like how you are today after going through everything? Just, and we talked, a little bit before, but like just so they know, it's not always dark, and where, what I mean? So yeah.
I am healed, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do and hear the stories I hear every day if I weren't. And I'm very thankful. The Lord did heal me. I don't have any trauma, PTSD. I'm not triggered. I can talk about the details of both stories and not feel I'm in it. That's really knowing when you're healed, is when you can talk about the story and it's not bringing up these raw emotions and you're feeling like you're back there. And I'm loving the ability to be with other people for them to heal. It's a gift. It's holy ground. I'm very thankful and very honored when someone invites me into their trauma and grief story because they're unpacking something very valuable to them.
Mhm.
This is a treasure to them. So that to me is a gift that is given to me. And I appreciate that. And our family's doing well, Eric. Our
That's
family
awesome.
is thriving. My son is doing well. My daughter, my husband. I have another son. Now, I would not say he's existing, not because he's been consumed by grief. He has not chosen to do the hard thing and heal. He's 31. So he's kind of just doing life flippantly. And that's something he's got to come to a point to
Mhm.
do on his own. He's a runner. And so he wants to run from. And
Mm.
yet it has caused a lot of issues running, but it's something that he's got to come to terms with and be ready in intention. And I don't need to tell him that. He knows he's lived in
Okay.
our house and he knows that, we love him. We're encouraging to him. But like you said, you can only run for so long.
That's true.
So that's kind of, and the grandchildren, my son's two children that was murdered, both those children are doing well.
That's amazing. That's good. See, so I just want to say to everybody, there's always hope, even when it looks dark,
Yes.
there's always hope. And there's people like us that have the flashlights to get you through those dark rooms. You just need to reach out, or Google or call your therapist, your local therapist or whoever you're talking to, like it's really good to talk about these things, get it off your chest and really just express how you're feeling because if you keep this stuff inside, it's going to eat you up. I did it for years and it didn't go good. It didn't go good until I smartened up and figured out how to really open up and express my feelings. Hence why I'm vulnerable on this podcast. So,
Well, and I just want to say, because we talked about the body keeps the score, but let's talk specifically. The lungs hold grief. When you are not
mhm,
releasing the lungs actually hold grief. And there are people that have repeated bronchitis, pneumonia after a loss of a loved one because the lungs are holding grief. The liver holds anger and it
mhm,
doesn't allow for the liver to process. Our body has emotion. Every emotion, negative emotion is associated with the body part people, and it can actually end up causing toxicity to your body. And that may be why you have high blood pressure, why you're having the issues that you're having. It's real. And you need not to be dismissive. You need to understand I don't want this going in my body. These are
mhm.
toxins. I do in the book have a prayer, Eric, where to pray every day for the release of those toxins from the mind and every organ and actually tell what the organ is associated with so that it can
Oh,
release. And I want
crazy.
people to visualize releasing all of that and receiving life, receiving the newness that comes into those places. And this is a visualization. It is necessary that you take authority over your mind and your body by reading that prayer. And I did it, the Lord spoke it over me and he started speaking over me because I just said, Lord, I can't do this without you. And he started speaking this prayer over me. And then he said, I want you to write this down. But he still kept speaking it. And then later he said, I want this in the book. So, I realized because he did continue to speak that healing over me because I wanted to be able to be present in this life, present for my children, present as
Definitely.
a wife, present as a friend. I wanted presence and I wanted his presence to help me be present.
I love that. I love that. And I actually want to talk to bring up something. Like you said, like how grief lives in your lungs, right? And you can get bronchitis and stuff. Well, actually my grandma, after my grandpa passed away, she died a couple weeks after, I believe, or maybe even a week after because she died of a broken heart,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
that's real.
And
Yes,
yeah, it's a real thing and it
it
really
is.
real. I remember I think it was my second love and broke up with me and I was sick to my stomach, you know? I was
Mm.
puking. I was
Yes.
sick because I
Yes.
really loved it, and that's what it is. I was grieving her. I was grieving the loss of her, right? Not in the sense of like her passing away, but in the sense of not having that relationship because I was thought I was madly in love when I was just a young little boy there, right? But I mean, so I just want to say, like, grief is comes also not just in loss of people, but it comes in loss of different things too. Job,
Yeah.
relationship,
Yep.
anything like that. But I do want to say that, but yeah, my grandma did die from a broken heart, and it's an actual scientific thing.
It is. Yes. And, we talk about the body. The mind also holds trauma in the amygdala in the back of the brain. And
Mhm.
so we do a lot of work at the sanctuary with releasing the
Oh wow,
trauma from the brain, the amygdala,
crazy,
so that it can
crazy.
be activated to have good storage, not negative
Hmm.
storage. Yes.
Yeah, get all the bad stuff out of
And
there.
everything we do is associated with the brain. Is
Hmm.
emotions come from the prefrontal right cortex.
Hmm.
And so we have emotions here, but our trauma gets stored in the back, and emotion and the trauma work together, and it can be very negative
And
and
then
is until it's healed.
and then that's how you get into spirals of like
Yes.
depression and all these
Yes.
other different exactly.
Anxiety. Yes.
Yeah. 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 And it gets dark. It gets dark. I mean, and I want to say this before we're getting to the end here, but I want to say like you're not alone in this. Like if you're
No.
dealing with this stuff, I couldn't get out of bed for the longest time.
Mm.
I had Joey, original co-host. He would come over every day after work and pull me out, and he would just sit with me. And if you know someone that's dealing with grief right now, sometimes all that person needs is for you just to sit beside them and hold space. You
That's
know,
all. That's all.
that's all I needed. I
They
just
don't
needed
need
someone to sit there.
platitudes. They don't need for
No,
you to tell them what to do. However, if you see, Eric, I'm going to use you as an example. If you see
no
someone who
problem.
can't get out of bed, you may want to make an appointment and say, hey, friend, I want to take you to the doctor because I think now we need to have, a professional speak into this
Mhm.
because I want to make sure that you aren't getting sick and your body's not declining. So
Yeah.
that's when we step in a positive way, and we aren't telling them, we're just saying we're going to make an appointment, we're going to take you so you can get a little help.
Well, that's why he was coming over every day to make
Yes.
sure that I was
Yes.
okay because I was stuck in my bed, right? And
Yes.
he would pick me up and then or not pick me up, but like he would like get me to get up and we would sit outside and he would just wait for me to say something. That was it.
Yes.
Like we would just
Yep.
sit there.
Yep.
And that's how Raw Minds became. We sat
Yep.
there and I was like, I'm gonna make a podcast. And he's like, he's like, that's crazy because I have screenshots of mics and mixers already. He's like, I can't believe you just said that. So and now here we are.
Let's pray.
And 92 countries now we just hit. I checked today. We're in 92 countries that we're streaming on. So I just want to say thank you, everybody, showing the support, streaming. Even if you listen to like 10 seconds visit, thank you anyways. I appreciate all of you guys. And I really appreciate you, Marcia. I really do. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate you. I mean, I think that it's important that we share our stories with others so they can have hope and they can see that here are two, we're not just surviving, we're thriving. And I think
100%.
that's something we talk about in grief too, that you don't want to just survive. We want you to thrive. And we want you to know what that looks like. So, Eric and I are thrivers. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're still here and so will
Yes.
you be.
Yes.
On that note, thank you again for coming on the show. Really appreciate that and spreading all this and all your links and all that will be in the bio. So if you guys want to check out all the stuff, please check out in the bio. It'll all be there. And once again, thank you all. Appreciate all of you guys. One love, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
That was awesome.